And it's interesting because I actually got a text message today from one of my players around this topic, and they're playing in went away to play a tournament. And the text message I got was, I don't know why I can't play the way that I'm playing in practice to matches. And this is a topic that is common around every player that I work with and have ever worked with, and every player that probably every coach has ever worked with. At some point, the practice doesn't transfer to matches. And there's multiple reasons always. It could be confidence, it could be the belief in what they've built, or it might be the fact that they've been injured, or they haven't played a lot, or they haven't got enough matches under their belt, or whatever it might be. There's so many different ways. They might have areas of their game that get broken down in matches. So, there's never really the same answer to that question. But the common thing for me is, how do we set up our practice environment so it simulates the match as much as possible and the pressures that we do face in match play? Even though I know in my heart, deep down, that it's almost impossible to create the pressures that occur on match day. It's almost impossible to do it. I won't say it is impossible, but it's pretty challenging to get to that point. But what we need to understand is that every practice session that we have is about getting someone better on the match court, not on the practice court. What do I mean by that? If I'm feeding ball after ball to someone and making it really comfortable and easy for them to hit forehands down the line or cross court, I'm grooving them, but I'm not really putting them into a scenario that they may face. So in that situation, there's no problem solving, decision making, there's no anticipation, perception skills utilized, and the ball's being fed the same. So it's called block training. But what we want to create in training is random based training that requires decision making and problem solving, that players put themselves into a situation that occurs on match day regularly. And in my latest blog that I sent out earlier today, we spoke a little bit about how did I come to this conclusion around it. And it wasn't until I stepped into an Australian football scenario. So I coach Australian rules football at professional level. And when I first walked in there at the age of 25, I think I was nearly 26, I walked into the environment and understood more around the team-centered approach, was looking at creating a scenario and then coaching that scenario. So in football, we call it a stoppage. So when the ball is even for both sides, it needs to be brought together and someone's got to try and win it. It's a contest, then that's called like a stoppage. So we're trying to work out, create that environment or that situation, and then allow the players to play and teach them from that scenario. So what they did well at it, trying to do it, or what they didn't do so well, or how can we do it better next time? It might be a scenario where we're in offense and we create that scenario and let the players go to work, and then we coach what happens from that. Tennis is notorious for being a skill-based, and I'll call it a skill-based in inverted commas, sport. So it's, how do I hit my forehand better? How do I hit my backhand better? How do I get my serve to be better? And we create repetition of the stroke without creating the scenario that the stroke needs to perform under. So that to me is the critical element of linking your training to your matches. So that's where I'm taking today, Connor and Stephen, and want to make sure that we're all sort of thinking that way. And yes, there's time and place to practice skill and repetition, but always with a thought in mind of how is this going to relate to my match day scenarios, and how do I create that scenario so I can work on the skill within that scenario.
Yeah, it's something that struck me when I first met you and saw how you coached, is it wasn't like other coaches that I'd seen in the past, not to throw any shade on them, but I'd seen a lot of, oh, you're hitting your forehand like this. No, it needs to be like this. And instantly when I started watching you coach, it was more your serve, we just need to make it good for match day. Like that was your whole philosophy. And it wasn't, all right, like it needs to be like this. The technique has to be like this. Oh, you missed a serve in practice. Like, this is what's wrong. It was so different to anything I'd seen. How do you actually get that message across to the kids that that's what's important, and get them to to realize that it's not just about the technique, but it's about actually building something that can stand up under pressure and being able to deal with that pressure?
That's a really good question. I think the challenge is more the parent side of it, because the parents see something break down and think that it's a stroke itself, or it could be, a problem with the technical side. Um, and the kids know no better. So it's our job as coaches in our environment to create the environment that allows for mistakes to occur, that allows for things to happen that are not perfect. And if you don't get that right from a young age, basically, and what do they say? I think by the time you're 8 years of age, you've learned 50% of the things that you are going to learn for the rest of your life. Now, that's a huge amount to getting to that period of time where it's like pre-puberty, and we need to ensure that the thinking is taught as well as the stroke production. Now, I'm a big believer of coaching from the inside out. So coaching from the thinking to the action, not coaching the action itself. Now, yes, you need to work on certain aspects of stroke production and do some certain drills to be able to help that. But you've got to create the thinking that creates the action rather than just the action itself. So getting kids to understand that we're looking long term, that is also something that we need to think about as a coaching fraternity, that um, how is this going to help you in 3 or 4 years time, 5 years time? What's the process of getting to that point? Having short-term goals to achieve long-term goals. Now, we always try to coach the moment, but I try to coach for down the track. I try to coach for someone who's going to develop in time. And as a young coach, I'd get quite frustrated because I wasn't thinking that way. I was like, man, the forehand's breaking down, it's not working, or gee, the serve looks really bad, or gee, you serve so many double faults, and you get caught up in the now. And I had to shift my thinking to, it's not about just the now. Yes, we want to work on it, but if you, I've got this quote around from Simon Sinek where he talks about, if you go to the gym and work out in one day, you don't see any change in the mirror when you look in the mirror. You go 2 days, you don't see change. But if you do it consistently over a period of time, what you start to see is you start to see the body shift and change. It's no different to tennis. If someone has a bad serving day and I want to work on their serve, you're not going to see change the next day. It's not this quick fix, automatic, like, oh, well, we've got a magic solution for it. Because in sport, we play, something that is fluid and flexible and adaptable. So all the time, things are shifting. So one day you could serve well, one day you could serve poor. But that doesn't mean there's a problem with the serve. It just means you've had a bad day, you were down on confidence, it might have been windy, you didn't adapt well. But we get kind of jumpy with our coaching around trying to fix things. And the word fix for me in tennis doesn't occur. It shouldn't occur because we don't fix anything. We make it better, but we make it better over time. So, having a thought around creating the scenarios in training allows us as coaches to help the skill transfer, because you create pressure in scenarios. You create scenarios that they can relate their thinking back to when they're on game day and go, oh, I did that cross court forehand laterally when the ball was moving across me and I had to use this step in training. And that now refers to this ball that's coming in now in the match. And it starts to link the brain to the scenario as opposed to going, okay, my coach wants me on my forehand to turn, to run out, and to use my outside leg. Now, that's all good if the ball's in that same spot as what, I fed it to last time. But if the ball is not in the same spot, I've created an unadaptable athlete who is just doing a repetition of something they've learned as opposed to reading the game, creating the skill around the scenario rather than just the skill itself.
All right. So the classic scenario is you've got a kid serving really well in practice, first serve, second serve. They come back after the weekend, and maybe even the parent, but the kid as well. I serve so many double faults. Oh, my son, my daughter serve so many double faults. Fix my serve, fix his serve, fix her serve. How do you handle this situation?
I think the serve itself is probably a different example, and the reason I say it's a little different example is it's a closed skill. So serving is a closed skill that doesn't require perceptual or anticipatory skills. So all I'm trying to do is work on, my own skill. So I can do a lot of repetition of that to get it better over time. But you know, it's still the same thing. I need to create not just the serving element, but it could be the direction of the serve, the speed, the spin, the however it might look, or it could be scenario of the serve at 30 all. Here's what I want to do. If I'm playing a person who has a Western grip as opposed to Eastern grip. So I'm still trying to create scenarios to help the server think about not just serving the ball, but serving with intent. Right. So serving with intent that creates the thinking for match day. So it's kind of like also, okay, we work on the skill and then it's like, all right, now you're serving at 30 all, the score is 4 all, and you're playing a player with a Western grip. Now, what do? Show me the serve and where you're going to serve it and how you're going to serve it. So it helps to then put into the player's mind a scenario. So when they go to match day and they remember, hang on, it's 4 all, 30 all, playing a Western grip player, this is what I do. It can come back to that storytelling in their own head of this is what we did last time. Now, people don't remember what they learn in practice a lot of the time unless you create something that sticks, whether it's an analogy, a scenario, a story. That's how memory is created. So it's creating memories in players' memory banks so that they can bring it out on match day. So that serving scenario is a closed skill. Yep, we got to work on that. But at the same time, I always tell the parent and the player, we are not going to fix what you did yesterday. It's not going to be fixed. What we are going to do is learn the tools so when it does happen again, here's what you need to do and give solutions to problems. And as coaches, it's about teaching solutions, leading the player to learn what the solutions are, as opposed to coaching directly, which what I mean by directly is, hey, your serve is doing this, so I want you to do this. You're not hitting a slice serve. I want you to hit the top of the ball and cut it, right? Yeah, whatever it might look like. That's giving a direct feedback and information, and it's giving the answer to the problem. What your job is to talk to the player about, okay, what's happening on your serve? Why isn't it getting wide enough? What do you think you need to do to get it wider? And how do you think you need to do it to get it wider? And then once you get it wide, what do you need to do from that? Right? So you're kind of leading the player to answer the questions and create solutions to the problem they had on match day. So next time that problem occurs, they go straight to the solution that they've learnt from you. And the age old saying of teaching is the person who is doing the talking is doing the learning. So if as a coach, I'm directly giving the answers, the player is not learning. If I'm asking the questions and the player is answering, they are learning and ingraining in their long-term memory what needs to happen next time this occurs. So I hope that answers your question around that specific example.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant way to put it, that last little quote, and something that I've seen from you time and time again as well with players asking the player, oh, what did you do here? Oh, why did this happen? Oh, what do you think you need to do about it? And I'm sure that yields really good results in players. And speaking of that, Steve-O, you were under Mark for many, many, many years. Do you have examples maybe in your own game where there was something like this, you were practicing really well and you just couldn't put it into play in match day, and you went through a similar sort of scenario or conversation with Mark? Any of these examples?
Yeah, definitely. I think every player goes through it where you can have a really good patch of training and then you go into a match and you sort of underperform, or your shots are a little bit different. One thing I'd like to comment on is the way in Mark's coaching is he did focus on trying to get that match simulation and sort of emulate the competitiveness of match day. Obviously, training compared to match day, there's nerves, there's pressure to win, there's fear of failure, etc. I think the biggest thing was, like he said, where you're trying to be, most of the drills were to be adaptable. Like in a match, you're not going to hit the same ball twice. So a lot of the drills were, open court, pressure point, which is a game where it's just like out of the hand and trying to just basically playing points with some set guidelines and stuff like that. That's really beneficial. So you actually feel like you're in a match. Your training feels like a match, and then you get on match day and you feel like you've been in this position all week. So that was the biggest change that I experienced from going to Mark. So I did sort of have the issue where I would not perform the same way I trained. But over years, like you said, the consistency, it gets ingrained where every day just feels like a match. Every tournament feels like training, goes hand in hand, and then it definitely works. And I'd like to, for the audience as well, if Mark has any more examples of how he does create that competitiveness and that simulation to match day, I think that'll be beneficial for the audience to hear.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I like that because obviously, we know each other quite well now over so many years of working together as player coach, but now also working together on our product. And I think the biggest thing that I've found is that the game itself requires certain things. So we serve every point, or sorry, every second game. We return every second game. The game starts with serve return. The average amount of points that finish under 4 shots is 70%. We hit about 650 balls, roughly, or 600 balls per match on average. We make 4 direction changes per point on average. We cover about 2 to 3 kilometers in a 3-set match. Right now, there's data and stats around the game that are really important to understand. If the game requires us to do those things, and there's more to it than that, obviously, but it requires us to do those things on a regular basis. Our training just needs to replicate that every single day, literally for the whole life. Now, it doesn't mean that every day you're going to be perfect and play really well, but what it does, it sets you up to go and simulate what the game requires us to do every single day, and that makes sure that you are feeling like you're in a match all the time. Why? Because a lot of the kids these days, and in particular in our country in Australia, is tournaments are few and far between. So what we're doing is we become great trainers. We train so much, 8, 9, 10 weeks in a row. Then there's a few tournaments. We need to create match players. And one of the texts I got before was, I feel like I'm a trainer at the moment. Was from this one player, and I'm just not a match player. And I like that because we're in a stage in our country in the middle of winter where there's been no tournaments for 7 weeks. The first tournament that pops up and this player plays, he's rusty in tournament conditions, right? Now in training match play, he's okay. In tournament conditions, not so okay. But as I said to him, as a player, you can't prioritize every single tournament you play and make sure that you have to, win every time you play a tournament. You have to prioritize it. And this is, for me, is a low priority event where it's like 7 weeks, no matches. Let's go and play, get some matches under your belt, get ready for the next tournament, which is next week. Prioritize that a little bit higher in our priority schedule, and the next one becomes higher. So we start to peak at a certain time. Like, for example, the US Open's about to start. If the players are peaking 2 weeks before the US Open, no good to be ready then. You got to be ready when the day of the first round of US Open. So all the lead up events, and we call them lead up events, are fine tuning their games to play the US Open. Now, what you do find is players that are winning, the lead up events usually before major Grand Slams usually don't go deep into the Grand Slam. They've peaked so early and played 5 or 6 matches in that week, and they have one day off, then they start the Grand Slam and try and play for 2 weeks at peak performance. It can't work. So it's around, where do I prioritize, the matches I want to get better at, and how do I do that? And through our training, it's a matter of making sure that every day you feel comfortable in a match environment. You might not perform every time you play a match, but you feel comfortable that you can compete, scrap, fight, read the game, know what to do in certain moments. And if the person at the other end plays better than you, you shake their hand and say, well done. Okay. And that's our game. It's a 50% chance when you walk on the court to win, but we have to give ourselves the best chance of performing.
I think as well, a couple of other things I noticed from the outside, looking at how you ran the academy at Maribyrnong, Mark, is and still run, is you guys play match day. You guys have match play every day, right? And so when the players have a training environment, it's not just turn up, let's have a casual hit, oh, let's have a lesson. It's no, like every single week I've got a serious match against one of my teammates, but we're competitors today, and there's probably some ego that gets involved, which adds to the competitiveness as well. So that really helps. And I know that sometimes you'll put little sort of I don't know how you would put it, not punishments, but little things that players don't want to do if they lose a little drill in training, such as you got to get up and do a dance in front of in front of the whole group, and things like that can definitely help as well, right?
Yeah, they do. And, I've stopped with the physical punishments because I feel like when you physically punish players, for poor performance or losses, or they start to hate fitness and strength and conditioning and stuff like that. So you create other things. So we got a new one where the losing player has to smell the shoe of the winning player for 10 seconds, after the match. So you got a nice sweaty shoe and you got something like that, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, the one thing that we do every single time the players play is we put a camera on it. The matches are filmed every time, so there's evidence of the match. It's put onto our closed YouTube channel, and the players, parents, and anyone in our environment can watch that match. And I think that adds as much pressure as we probably need to create and simulate match day environments. So yeah, it has worked really well, Connor, and it's something that I continue to do on a weekly basis and will do moving forward because I think it just brings the best out of people.